They unleashed 3 killers on a human cadet. She ended it instantly. The arena lights flared to life, bathing the sand-floored pit in sterile brilliance. A murmur rippled through the galleries above as spectators pressed closer to the glass walls, hungry for bloodsport. Cadet Myra Hale adjusted her stance, one hand resting on the hilt of her practice blade. The silver insignia of the Intergalactic Academy gleamed faintly against her dark uniform, an almost laughable reminder that this was supposed to be a test. Tests weren't supposed to kill you. At least, not in the human academies. Here, under the Dominion's watch, humans were barely more than curiosities, an underdeveloped species drafted into the great interstellar order. Myra knew the odds. She wasn't expected to survive. She was expected to entertain. Across the pit, 3 gates rattled open. From the first strode a Krath marauder, its 4 arms ending in serrated axes of bone. It exhaled steam, its thick carapace glistening like obsidian. From the second lumbered a Vor beast, 12 feet tall, armored hide rippling with muscle, drool sizzling as it hit the sand. From the third gate slithered a Draelith assassin, lean, whip-fast, cloaked in iridescent scales that shimmered with distortion, half invisible, half nightmare. 3 killers. The crowd roared approval. The Dominion overseer raised his clawed hand. Cadet Myra Hale of Sol, your examination begins. Survive. The gong slammed down. The monsters moved as one. The strike. The marauder charged first, axes raised. Sand exploded beneath its pounding strides. Myra inhaled once, dropped her center of gravity, and didn't wait. She sprinted forward. The crowd gasped. Cadets weren't supposed to charge. They were supposed to panic. To flee. To die slowly. Her blade sang out in a tight arc. The marauder's first axe swept down, but she wasn't there. She slid beneath it, boots carving a path in the dust. As she passed, she snapped her wrist and drove the blade upward, right between the marauder's thoracic plates. A scream like shattering glass split the air. By the time its massive body hit the ground, Myra was already rolling to her feet, eyes locked on the other 2. The crowd erupted, some in disbelief, others in savage joy. The Vor beast bellowed. The beast. It thundered forward, each step cracking stone beneath the sand. Its jaws split wide enough to swallow her whole. Myra didn't run. She sprinted toward it. The Vor's tiny eyes blinked, confused by prey that refused to behave. At the last instant, Myra veered, boots kicking up grit. The beast twisted after her, but its momentum was its enemy. She vaulted off its foreleg, drove her blade down at the junction of its neck and shoulder. The steel barely penetrated the armored hide, but it was enough. The beast roared, snapping at her, but she had already launched herself off its back, landing in a crouch behind it. Her fingers brushed the sand, searching. She snatched a shard of the marauder's broken axe blade and flung it with every ounce of strength she had. The shard spun end over end before sinking into the Vor's eye. The monster reeled, clawing at its face. Blood, thick and black, spattered across the pit. Myra was already moving again. The assassin. The Draelith had been waiting. Its shimmering form darted in from the periphery, whip-blade fingers slicing the air where her throat had been a fraction of a second earlier. Myra twisted, the strike grazing her uniform instead of flesh. She lashed out with her sword, but the Draelith blurred, bending light around its scaled body. Invisible. Silent. Deadly. Myra froze. Closed her eyes. The crowd jeered, thinking she was surrendering. But her training whispered otherwise. If you can't see, then feel. She slowed her breathing. Listened. There, sand shifting, the faint scrape of claw against grit. The assassin lunged. Myra spun, driving her blade blindly into empty air. And felt resistance. A strangled hiss escaped as the Draelith shimmered back into visibility, Myra's sword embedded deep in its chest. It slashed wildly, but she ripped the blade free and pivoted low, severing its legs at the tendons. The creature crumpled, writhing in fury. She ended it cleanly with a thrust to the throat. Silence. The pit fell silent. 3 killers lay broken in the dust. And Myra Hale stood alone, chest heaving, blade dripping with alien blood. The silence lasted only a moment before the gallery exploded in noise, roars of approval, curses of outrage, wagers lost and won in an instant. The Dominion overseer's mandibles clicked, unreadable. At last he spoke, his voice carrying across the arena. Unexpected. The human cadet survives. The words were not praise. They were accusation. Myra straightened, wiped her blade clean on her sleeve, and raised her chin. You asked me to survive. I did. The overseer's gaze burned into her, but he said nothing more. Guards ushered her from the pit. Aftermath. In the debriefing chamber, Myra sat across from Commander Reth, the only Dominion officer who'd ever treated her with something resembling respect. His insectoid eyes studied her carefully. You understand what you've done, he said. She shrugged. I followed orders. You humiliated them. The Marauder, the Vor, the Dralith, none were supposed to fall to a cadet. Especially not a human one. Myra leaned back, exhaustion washing over her bones. Maybe they underestimated me. Retha's mandibles twitched in something like amusement. That is an understatement. They will not forgive this. She met his gaze steadily. Then let them send more. What came after? Word spread faster than plague. The human cadet who killed 3 killers. Soldiers whispered her name. Rivals cursed it. Admirers carved it into the metal walls of the barracks. The Dominion had intended to break her. Instead, they had created a symbol. Myra Hale was no longer just a cadet. She was proof. Proof that humanity was not prey. Proof that humans could stand in the same pit as the galaxy's most lethal warriors and walk out alive. The Dominion tried to silence the story, but it slipped through cracks and carried across systems. Other humans conscripted into the academy began to walk taller, fight harder. Even some non-humans began to look at her with grudging respect. Myra never asked for glory. She only wanted to survive. But in that pit, under the lights and the roar of the crowd, survival had become revolution. And she knew this was only the beginning. Because somewhere, behind closed doors, the Dominion overseers were planning their next move. And Myra Hale would be ready.